Time for your Low Country Real Estate Market Update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-400-8009. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. A decade I've been on this program, helping you guys better understand the real estate market. Not just locally, but regionally, nationally, helping you guys better understand the trends within it so that if you're thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate, you're an informed consumer. I share my experiences as somebody that's been selling real estate for 17 years here in Charleston, South Carolina. I've done about 1,300 transactions, about $1 billion worth of real estate here locally. So I share my experiences with you so that, again, you know what to look for. You know the right agents to hire. You have an idea of course, which direction the market is headed so that you can plan accordingly. So before we get into today's show, which I'm going to cover a few different topics, I want to first talk about just the market in general here locally, give you guys some comparison to kind of where we are right now versus where we were before COVID, and kind of what the market looked like for several years leading up to COVID. So I want to draw some comparison between then and now. I want to help you guys understand how I analyze and interpret investment property when I look for things that I want to purchase or where we help investors purchase cash flowing real estate. I'm going to give you guys some mistakes to avoid if that's something that you have an interest in or just want to learn more about. Real world examples as somebody that has spent a lot of my own money in the investment world of real estate, millions and millions of dollars. So want to share the benefit of those experiences with you. And then a little bit later on in the program, I want to have a discussion that most people shy away from in this industry, quite frankly. I want to talk about commission. I want to talk about what your options are and just how it works. You know, there's this... I don't know. People don't like talking about it because they think that if they don't talk about it or if they don't bring it up, then they'll get more. You know, they're afraid to even approach it because they're going to assume that, you know, their fee is the standard fee that everybody else charges and it's just what you as a consumer pay. And I'll just give you a little sneak peek now. You should have options when you're going to sell your property. The options should have commission structures associated with whatever it is you're trying to accomplish with the sale of your property, whether it's something that you need done very quickly, whether you don't care how long it takes, so long as you get the amount that you want. Maybe you don't need or want all of the marketing services that we provide for or all the extra incentives that we provide. And so there should be varying levels of commission that you pay as a result of the services that you select. So I want to talk about that. And then finally, we have been running into this issue for as long as I've been in real estate, 17 years, but especially over the course of the past, I want to say 6 months, about pricing property and how challenging that can be for some folks. And then how I go about the process, give you kind of a sneak peek into, you know, if we were sitting down together at your kitchen table and I was going to tell you, here's how much your home is worth, I'm going to show you how I would arrive at that analysis. So that's what's in store for the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show this hour. Now, if you'd like to reach out to me, if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, multiple incentives depending upon what you're trying to accomplish, anything from lower commissions to incentives like paying your moving expenses, providing you with pre-listing inspections, staging, all kinds of great things. All you need to do is reach out to us so we can learn a little bit more about whether we can help or not. My number is 843-800-0065. Now, that's going to go to me directly. You can call or text that number, 843-800-0065. Or you can check us out online if you just want to do a little research on us before giving me a call. My website is listingsincharleston.com, listingsincharleston.com. And I know a lot of you listen to this program fairly regularly, and I do really appreciate that. I'll also say that we have, for the past several years, been recording these sessions in the station and putting them on YouTube. So we have, I want to say, like 700 something videos on YouTube talking about basically any topic in real estate you can think of. So you can also listen to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, all that great stuff. I think if you just search Brian Beatty or Brian Beatty Team, you'll find us and you'll find the information you're looking for. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about the market. And I do want to add a bit of a disclaimer first. And this is something that I've been talking with, certainly my team about over the past several months. And that is this. We as a population of people have been conditioned over time to seek out polarizing opinions and polarizing data. It's the way the world works as it relates to news and information. Everybody always has to be offering something on one side of the fence or the other. The market's going to crash or the market's not going to crash. There's a tidal wave of foreclosures coming. The market will be balanced this time next year. There's so many different viewpoints, but especially on places like YouTube where it's self-directed for the most part, the only way that they're going to get views is if they offer something that's truly polarizing. And I've got some news for you folks. The market right now isn't all that exciting. Let's just call it what it is. It's a normal market. It feels like it used to feel. Now, I think that there are plenty of agents out there that have only been in business for a few years, and so all they know is the craziness that we've experienced during COVID as it relates to the real estate market. But for several years prior to COVID, it was just a normal market. And so, I am committed on this show to providing you guys with a no-holds-barred truth to what's happening in this market right now, as experienced by one of the top agents in town. And so when we look at kind of the different areas of the market that are hot buttons, so to speak, you've got supply, demand, days on market, pricing, so on and so forth. So I want to touch on just a few of those different things this morning. But the first, let's just look at the inventory of homes that have been available for sale. And let's go back in time a little bit. The peak for when we as a market here in Charleston, South Carolina, had the most properties for sale was in August of 2007. We had 11,900 homes for sale. It was a buyer's market, a lot of options. This is, if you can recall, if you've lived here for that long, just driving down the street, and this was the same almost everywhere in the country, but you drive down a street in a neighborhood and there's 2 or 3 homes for sale on the street that you're on. Multiple for sale in the neighborhood. Lots of options, lots of leverage for buyers to say, hey, if you don't want my offer, that's fine. I'll go down the road and offer the same offer to your neighbor who's very similar, slightly different, and similarly priced. And so that's when you had people cutting each other out at the knees and pricing. And that was one of the only ways you could get something sold in a reasonable amount of time was to beat the competition. And that should always be the case, not in terms of undercutting your competition, but in terms of adding more value, being more attractive, aligning yourself with an agent that knows how to portray that value and get people interested enough to take action. So in August of 2007, we had almost 12,000 homes for sale. And then by the end of 2012, we went down to about 6,500 homes for sale. Now in 2012, that's when we started to see a little appreciation sneak back into our market by just a few percentage points. I want to say that in 2012, the average sales price increased to like 2.5%. It wasn't much, but it was a step in the right direction. Well, we stayed at about 6,500 homes for sale until the second quarter of 2020. That's how long we had a balance, so to speak, to the number of homes for sale. But obviously, the second quarter of 2020 is when we really started to see inventory drop significantly. In fact, it looked like it just dropped off a shelf if you're looking at it on like a line graph. But for 8 years, from 2012 onward, we saw market appreciation that was fairly standard, 5-6% a year. Some years were a little better than others. We had a few years where it approached or slightly passed double-digit appreciation, but then COVID hit. We went from a $287,000 median sales price in June of 2020 to $425,000 in June of 2022. That's an increase of 39% in the median sales price in just over a 2-year period, which is huge, massive. That's why everybody's sitting on equity right now with the 3% interest rate that doesn't have a lot of incentive to go and jump into another house at a 5.5% interest rate. Well, fast forward to today. We have 2,500 homes for sale right now. We have a little less than a third of the inventory our market has kind of been used to under normal, quote unquote, conditions before COVID. So we have a long way to go before, looking at it simplistically from a supply and demand perspective, puts us back at like 6 months supply of inventory, which is what we call a normal market where there's no real upward or downward pressure on pricing. Properties appreciate a few percentage points a year. All is good. That's just what we call a normal market. Well, because of the lack of inventory and because of the lack of choice, sellers are still mostly in the driver's seat. It's not an extreme seller's market like it was this time last year, but they still have the upper hand, so to speak, because the buyer doesn't have as much leverage because of all the other options that are available to them. So that's what's keeping pricing fairly stable right now. I mean, believe it or not, we're still seeing multiple offers. I put a $3 million property on the market and had multiple offers in 2 days. So the demand is out there, but it is less. That should be expected when interest rates basically double. They more than doubled for a few months compared to the 3% interest rates that we were used to last year. But we're still seeing some multiple offers. Demand is less, yes, and affordability is less. Now, when we talk about affordability, at least in our little corner of the world here in Charleston, South Carolina, the affordability index last month in January was 83. So, what does that number mean? Well, 83, which by the way is compared to 113 January of 2022. And so a number of 83 means that the median household income is 83% of what is necessary to purchase a median priced home in that area under prevailing interest rates. So in other words, 100 is stable. The higher the number, the more affordable the property is. The lower the number, the less affordable real estate in your area is in comparison to wages. And so it's been that way for, I want to basically a little over a year. And so because properties are less affordable, because segments of the population are priced out of purchasing a home, there's a bunch of different causes and effects. I don't want to get into all of them this morning, but I think the message to take away from this particular segment and as it relates to our market right now is that it's just kind of normal. It feels normal. It feels the way it used to feel. And so for me, of having sold real estate for 17 years, I remember what that feels like, and our team did very, very well in all cycles of the market. I've seen a full cycle, the ups and downs, the in-betweens, and we've been successful as a team in all of them. And so I think now when you're going to sell a property as an example, the agent you hire needs some different skill sets than what they developed in a market where all you have to do is put a sign in the yard and put it in the MLS, and then the next day, that day, the day after, you have multiple offers on the property. Let's be honest, there's not a ton of skill involved with selling in a market where there's so much demand that you don't have to create it or influence it through creative marketing. Now we're back to the days where you have to do what you used to have to do. You have to prep your home for sale. You have to hire the right agent with the right marketing plan, with the right pricing strategy, with the right commission structure that will get you over the finish line and have you be happy about it at the end of the day. So when we come back, we're going to talk about analyzing investment property, something we do a lot of, something our property management company does a lot of. So I want to walk you through that process and highlight a few mistakes that I think folks make when they're either getting into real estate investing, or maybe they've been in it and they've had to learn the hard way. So I want you guys to benefit from those lessons. But if you'd like to reach out to me, you want to have a conversation about real estate, my number is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Feel free to call or text me if you want information on what's going on in your specific area, your location, your neighborhood, your price range, and what that means for you and your home and your family. And again, 843-800-0065. Or you can go online and check us out there, listingsincharleston.com. Stick around, folks, for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Stay tuned for more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.